Brian De Palma, master of the macabre, invites you to a showing of the latest fashion. In Murder, Sexy Time Theater does it with Dress to Kill. Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Sexy Time Theater. I'm Ben.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm Reese.
And we're back to trudge through some more erotic thrillers and determine whether or not it was sexy. I feel really good about the first episode, Fatal Attraction. We had a good time.
Yeah, I think the first episode went over really well. I had a sexy time.
And we're making moves. We have our social media all set up at Sexy Time Theater on Twitter. We have a Facebook, Sexy Time Theater. We still have our email, sexytimetheater@gmail.com. And we're working on a theme song too. Not quite there yet, but hopefully by episode 3. And we already have our episode 3 picked out. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. Let's just do some housekeeping from episode 1. Martha, the receptionist that I was so enamored with. I thought her acting was amazing in that one scene where she was getting phone calls. Her name is Lois Smith. She had has a 60-year career. She's not dead. She's had a 60-year career, which included starring in East of Eden with James Dean, 5 Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson. She was on Guiding Light, I think in like the 60s or the 70s. But you would know her probably from True Blood, where she was Adele Stackhouse, Sookie's grandmother.
She was Graham.
She was Graham, and I love that because I love her. She always pops up and stuff. She was like the mother of like the precogs from Minority Report, which is another full circle return to episode 1.
Yes.
And one of my favorite scenes and favorite trashy 90s movies, Twister. She was I think her name was Meg in Twister, and they all came and ate dinner at her house. And I remember like, man, this steak is so fresh. And he was like, yeah, you see my cows out front? And you're like, no. Oh, I always loved that scene. I just thought that was really classic.
Never seen Twister.
Oh, yeah, man, me neither.
I think my science class in middle school maybe put it on. You know when they try to like put on a movie that's very tangentially related to whatever?
Quote unquote science like, yeah.
Like when like history class would put on Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You didn't see my air quotes, audience.
Let's dig in. Dress to Kill, 1980. Brian De Palma, our first Brian De Palma movie, but certainly not our last.
Indeed.
Master of the erotic thriller, Brian De Palma. And in this one, he is really showing his Hitchcock love. He's wearing it on his sleeve. De Palma, actually, we're going to get in. There's this movie, Cruising, with Al Pacino, where he goes undercover at gay leather bars to find a serial killer. And we will definitely do it, because the trailer is... Just please YouTube Cruising. The Cruising started as an article about the underbelly of the gay club scene and the murders that took place, and the cops going undercover and using surveillance equipment. And Brian De Palma wanted to make a movie out of the Cruising article before they actually made the movie. And when that fell apart, he actually used the script he kind of refashioned it and then took pieces from Psycho to make Dress to Kill. And that's why the one kid is using all the surveillance equipment.
Okay, see, that makes sense. There you go.
Eventually we'll get into Cruising, but Dress to Kill, guys. I have a lot of notes. I don't know about you. I saw Shannon's notes. She's got even more than I do.
My notes were not as extensive as you guys, but I believe I'm on the fringe on this one. I don't think I enjoyed this one as much as you guys did.
I was gonna bury the lead, but I was gonna say one of us said it was one of the 10 worst movies I've ever seen, but it was Reese.
Yeah. I'll take that one. I don't know. We'll get into all that. I'm not gonna say that I hated it. I enjoyed the film, but yeah. We'll get there.
I'm kind of ambivalent about it. It's weird. Like I still kind of like it, but it wasn't. I don't know. It didn't knock me out or anything. But awesome cast.
Great cast.
We'll as we go through the movie, we'll kind of just single everybody out.
Was it a great cast, Mister?
It was a murderer's
worst
row.
movie I've ever seen. Was it great?
First off, I didn't say it was the worst movie I've ever seen, but it was one of the worst films in a technical sense. Like, I really wasn't going to get into it yet, but I would just say this really looked like film student De Palma. Like this, like to me, I just felt there was a lot of stuff in there that I had gripes with. It just seemed like kind of like thing that like, hey, this is my first like thriller ever, and I'm going to take chances on doing a lot of weird things and spending a lot of time with no dialogue on screen and really having a lot of shots that have no purpose. But like
I'm going to have amazing memory sequences, too.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah,
I wish they still did memory sequences like that. I love that. It's funny you say that from a technical standpoint you didn't like it, because a lot of people would argue that all this is, in a lot of his movies, it's just technical. It's just a lot
Even though it sucks, technically.
It's a lot of tracking shots and camera tricks and things, but there's no... It's all style and no substance.
Exactly. That's what
that would describe this movie.
Yeah, that's my thought on it. And It's a
Okay, so I watched it on Movieplex. It's available on Movieplex on the Xfinity app. And before the movie even starts, we open up on the ratings. So rated R for nudity, sexual situations, and Reese pointed. That's another thing. We watched this together, which is weird.
Yeah.
We'd furiously scribbling notes together instead of talking to each other. Reese pointed out that when you were a kid, you would be like, "Oh, it's got nudity and sexual situations."
When I saw the big N and the SC for strong sexual content, I knew I was in for a good time.
Did they even rate them back then?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially when they were on HBO, they would always
like
have...
I know they would rate them like R, but
the dude would just be like, "The following movie is rated R."
And then like the next screen
I'm
would
sorry,
come
what did he
with
say?
all the little blocks.
The following movie. So we start with this elegant credit sequence, beautiful orchestral ballad that kind of gets repeated throughout the movie that I liked a lot.
the same notes being played over and over again in different tones.
Yeah, that's what the score is. The score was good.
The entire movie.
And
There's a lot of it.
the first thing we see is it's a dream-like sequence.
It is a dream, right?
Well, it is a dream, but that's the thing.
You don't know that.
De Palma, he shoots a lot of his scenes with like that, like there seems like a lot of natural light coming in through the windows, or like there's a filter over the screen. Does something to kind of give you the sense that you're in a dream, but he also does that in scenes that aren't dreams to throw you off. Angie Dickinson, the beautiful Angie Dickinson, is taking a shower. Her husband is shaving. She's kind of staring at him out the window with a glass of the shower, and she starts going to town on herself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Is he shaving with a straight razor?
He is shaving. With
Okay,
razor.
go ahead.
See,
Just wanted to know.
nice.
I didn't look.
Foreshadow. But no, I gotta say, they jumped right into the sexiness of this. They like, Brian De Palma cut like, no expense.
Not
like,
playing.
No,
Well,
not
let's
all.
be clear.
Yeah.
Angie Dickinson didn't jump into the sex.
Okay, all right. So maybe
Whatever
I'm
body
double.
they
Angie
threw
Dickinson's
her
head.
head
Yeah.
on.
Well, we
Jesus.
had some discussion about this, but at the time, Brian De Palma wanted her to tell everybody that it was her body. So, like, to go on The Tonight Show and whatever to promote the movie and be like, yeah, that was me. But she wouldn't do it. And other people thought it was Nancy Allen.
I was hoping it was Nancy Allen.
We get a Nancy Allen shower scene, not to worry. But it was actually a penthouse pet named Victoria Johnson, who was 24.
Oh, man.
She
And
looks
what
about
was-
18.
Angie was what, like 46 with this movie?
Like 48. Yeah.
She looks like a hard 60.
No, I thought Angie looked great.
She is very
I thought
elegant.
she looked like a
She was.
hard
I saw her in
60.
an episode of Law and Order SVU, probably from maybe 10 years ago, and she still looked great.
Yeah.
Well, like, maybe now she looks really good, because, like, the makeup back then wasn't, like, on point, but she looked every bit of 40 whatever. Like, and it was a shame, because then they threw this young body on her, and it was, like,
The other
really
line
obvious.
That was obvious, especially when she has nudity scenes later on in the movie, and it's completely obvious
And
that it
it's
was
her
not
real
the same
ass.
body.
Yeah. It's not a penthouse pet.
No,
It's
but I
like
think
her.
Angie looked great. I thought she was holding it together at 48.
What did you guys
I
think of
think she
this?
looked
The
like
scene where I'm watching it, and she's masturbating, and she's making ridiculous
With a
faces,
bar of soap,
and
by the way.
the water's going into her mouth, and she's kind of just exhaling. And my thoughts in order were, this is exploitive. And then I thought, no, this is the 70s, or 1980. It's a woman taking charge of her sexuality. And then I was like, you know what? I'm a man. I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
It's a lot to think about when watching that.
It was a long
like,
shower
it wasn't
scene, to
just
be
like,
fair.
wow, this is a really weirdly cut scene.
So, and then
I'm thinking about her personal rights.
she's in the shower by herself, and at this point you realize it's probably a fantasy sequence because she's suddenly getting strangled from behind in the shower, and the husband doesn't hear her, and he keeps shaving. We cut to her husband and her in bed, and she's wearing pajamas.
Hold on. It has nothing to do with anything.
Well,
That scene
first
of
off,
her in the shower.
To point something out, there's about 75% of this movie that
That
has
doesn't
nothing to
mean
do with
anything. But you're like, oh my god, maybe that shower scene is foreshadowing. Nope, it's not.
No.
It's just was what it
It was an
was.
excuse to do a shower scene.
Yeah,
that
I
was it.
suppose,
Yeah.
but it was just, I don't know. I just watched it and I was like, why? Why did that
And
happen?
you're questioning why I said this is one of the worst films I saw.
Yeah, no, I don't question it. I'm just saying, I wouldn't say the acting's strong when I'm like, that was an awful one.
Angie Dickinson and Angie Dickinson's husband are what I wrote down was screwing. There's no that's the most accurate. They're not making love. They're not having sex. They're not even fucking. They're screwing because he's just wailing on her and she's trying to have a good time. She's trying to make the best out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking that the shower scene, if anything, was her imagine. That's what she was imagining. Although why she would imagine her, maybe she's got a choking thing. I don't know. So
like maybe that was like
what she was thinking about to try to get off while he's screwing her.
That's weird.
See,
but
people are weird.
he
Yeah,
finishes.
that's so weird.
She's kind of making noises, but we find out later on she was totally faking it.
Oh, it was obvious.
And he gives her a little smack on the face, and he's like, "Oh, it was good," and then just rolls off and goes get a shower. Angie Dickinson gets up. She goes and visited her son, whiz kid Keith Gordon, who's working on some '70s circuit boards. And I was so excited to see Keith Gordon. He didn't have a huge output as an actor, but everything he was in was awesome. He's the kid that buys the car in Christine.
Oh my God! Wow, I didn't even notice that.
And he's Rodney Dangerfield's son in Back to School.
Oh, great!
And he's one of the Kyle Butlers in Dexter.
Is he?
Yeah, when I went on IMDb to look him up, one of his things is Kyle Butler.
Well, he directed a bunch of the episodes of Dexter. Once he quit
maybe
acting,
he directed that episode.
Kyle
That
Butler-
could
that
make
is
more
directing,
sense.
no.
yeah.
Wow.
So he's directed a lot of TV director.
I have to look that up.
The big thing I picked up, like he was just completely rocking the Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, like your Ford haircut, like American Hair Pie all the way, brown glasses, shaggy hair.
Maybe that's where they took it from.
It's
they were
eerie.
like, "Oh, we
Yeah,
better
he
make
looks
him look
a
like
lot
us."
like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He is building a computer, right? And he's acting like he's
Well, he's
the
building a
first one to
circuit
do it.
board. I'm not a computer guy, but it was supposed to be impressive.
Yeah,
But-
from what I took away from it is that Angie, his mother, was talking to him and noting about how amazing and how smart he was at what he's doing. So you're supposed to take away this guy is kind of a whiz at what he's doing.
She's
Yeah.
like, it can carry and hold digits. Yeah. She wants to go to the museum with him, and he kind of backs out because the city science championships are coming up, and he needs to have the circuit board ready.
Yeah, and that's important right there.
She asks him if he's going to name it, and he says, "I don't know what I'm going to name it." And she said, "You should name it after yourself." And she tells a story about Napoleon, how he liked to bake to relax, and he invented the Napoleon pastry. And I was like, no.
I think that's total bullshit.
I googled it. No, it's not. And then I thought about it, and I was like, did the writer think that this was true and put it in there, or is this like a way to be like she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking? Was she supposed to be an idiot?
Yeah. You know what? I'll take that. You know, the writing staff was like, you know what? The mom wants to, like, you know, award her son, tell her how smart he is, but she's actually a moron and doesn't know what she's talking about. So that makes sense to me.
Her science is super genius, but this girl's a fucking idiot.
Like, this whole interaction was just so they had a scene together before what goes down, so that there can be like that involvement. The whole thing comes off kind of like she's like a supportive sitcom mom who's also super horny.
Yeah. Totally, and she was definitely giving him the taboo eyes. I thought we might have been introduced to some De Palma incest at some point from the way the conversation was going over.
Really,
truly, I really
You
did.
thought incest was coming.
You never know.
in a Brian De Palma movie, yeah, she goes and visits Michael Caine, her psychiatrist. Michael Caine is Michael Caine. He's amazing.
Yes,
Michael Caine.
He says at one point, "My secretary is gone. Like, she's not here. I'm trying to pull it off my own." Are we led to believe that she was murdered as well?
No, but you
Okay.
could have. You're
He
certain.
talks about a wife we never see as well. I feel like
you know what when we break down what happens at the end, yeah, that very well could have happened. You're right.
spoilers.
But
yeah.
little inside baseball. Sean Connery was their original choice, and he wanted to do it.
Wow.
And he had other like commitments. I would have loved to have seen Sean Connery play this part.
That would have been great, especially once we delve into the rest of the story of this movie.
Yeah.
Seeing Connery in that role,
Although he would have been wasted because I feel like Michael Caine was kind of wasted here. I really don't feel like
yeah.
So she goes and he's very debonair. He's very charming. He's Michael fucking Caine.
Yeah.
And she's telling him about his the sex she had earlier on, and she calls it a wham bang special.
Wham bam special, yeah.
And she wants to fuck Michael Caine, and he's like, "Oh, we can't do that. That's my
Michael Caine.
That's your
My
Michael
Michael
Caine.
Caine's so weak. All I have is Mr. White. And that's all I have. That's all my Michael Caine.
All I can do is the size of a tangerine.
Now you even get a little twingy of Australian in there too.
Yeah,
I
he's
hear
got
the
that Cockney thing is a little Australian.
Yeah.
But
No, Cockney doesn't sound Australian. Ben sounds Australian doing Cockney.
Michael Caine.
Yeah,
I
he's
thought
just-
you were
good, though.
That's
But
good.
okay, well, if I have to do any Michael Caine impersonations for the rest of the stuff, you know what? I'll do Sean Connery instead. So she goes, "Oh, do you want to have sex with me?" And he's like, "Oh yes, push it
That's
along."
not better.
That's almost as all right. So anyway, he's like, "Yeah, so I can't because I love my wife." It's kind
It was really short scene.
She talks about her mother, and she talks about her mother's crazy, and she's gonna ruin her birthday.
Yeah, and she also talks about her desire to wanting to cheat on her husband. I know she made that was a real focal point of the conversation.
Well, obviously, I would want to cheat on my husband if I was
if you were getting those wham bang
If I was
specials.
getting wham bam specials all day, I'd be like, you know
The slap
what?
on the face, good game. Send you on your way. Yeah.
And if I was imagining like getting murdered while it happened,
Yeah. And like, I also gotta say, this is about like what, maybe 15, 20 minutes into the film. I imagine.
Not even,
Not
but-
even at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're gonna get to where we lead to. The entire time of this film, call it misdirection, call it what you will. You know, I'm behind Angie Dickinson 100% in this film. I'm like, oh, this is my leading lady. Like, she's gonna take me from the beginning of this movie, and the story's gonna play out, and I'm wondering what's gonna happen to her. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot of twists and turns in this film that are unexpected.
We'll get into that because I'll tell you what was going on there. She ends up at the museum by herself, and she's in the art gallery, and she's looking around, and she's kind of making notes of these pictures. And the exterior was the Museum of Art in New York, but the inside was the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you looked at me strangely, and I apologize for that. So I made a face. I'm just looking at my notes, and I completely missed.
you looked up like, what'd you say?
Yeah, I
like a
completely missed
teacher and
a
a
very,
student.
very big point of my notes that I wanted to hit, and it was from the opening dream sequence when she got strangled. We didn't, and no one mentioned the fact that she got picked up by her vagina.
Oh
We did not
yeah,
forget
no,
that.
yeah, that's true.
She got picked up by her vagina.
Yeah.
Totally got picked up by her vagina.
He's grabbing her around the neck and the vagina, and he lifts her off her
literally
feet.
hoisted her. I'm sorry for the face that I made, but I looked at my notes, and that was a note that I wanted to get to, and then we skipped it, so I had to bring it up.
Maybe that was him banging her into the headboard in her dream.
Oh, see that again? So my apologies.
No, it's not.
See, that's the
I did
worst
not know
part.
that. So
You
yeah.
don't know if it's a dream sequence because she doesn't wake up from it. Like, you just then see her having sex. Like, if they showed her, like, waking up, like, oh my god, that was awful, like, holding her neck.
Yeah.
Then
Or
you're
her
like,
vagina.
oh, it makes sense in
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense in a scene. But if you're just gonna then focus on, like, her husband railing her, it's just weird.
Well, I mean, and to Ben's point, De Palma is definitely known for the misleadingness of his dream sequences, but you could tell it was a dream. It was a lot of steam in the shower thing, and a lot of the lighting and just the feel of that entire scene was definitely dream sequence. But sorry, not
No problem.
Not to deter.
And you know what? Like, in the museum, the gorilla in the pose that Rose had in the Titanic,
Okay.
it was just so, like, when she was staring at it, and it was just
it's a sexy gorilla, to be fair.
like, that's
It's
what
in
I'm
this
saying.
weird, it's laying down with its head resting on its.
It's in the
its hand.
Titanic position. If you've ever seen
Paint me
Rose,
like one of your French girls.
yeah, paint me like one of your friends. But it's a fucking gorilla. Like, it's
Paint me
really
like one
weird.
of your French primates.
And, like, I bet there were a lot of paintings in that museum they could have focused on, but they went straight for the sexy gorilla.
I thought it was a fake. I thought it was something they made for the movie, but it's not.
No,
it's really
it's real.
It's in the manager's office at the Museum of Art in Philly now. It's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real piece of pride for them.
So this is the beginning of what is essentially like 20 minutes of silence as we kind of walk through the museum. She's sitting there, and this fella comes and sits down next to her. And I don't know where to begin with this guy. Anybody else have any?
Well, he
It's Rico Suave.
totally Rico Suave. I was going to say I was creeped out by the sunglasses, but it's 1980. I get it. There are so many problems with everything with this scene, so I'm not even going to get started on it.
Coiffed hair, saddle shoes,
He did have saddle shoes on. He had
glorious
saddle shoes.
sunglasses.
Yes.
I remember looking at, I have a strong note, saddle shoes.
He's kind of sitting there. He's chewing on his pen in a kind of sexual way. I don't even think he had anything to write on, so I don't know why he had the pen. But they go through a whole thing. She takes off her glove to show that she has a wedding ring, and he kind of takes off, and then she pursues him, drops her glove. He finds the glove, puts it on his hand to give it back to her to kind of be cute, grabs her on the shoulder, scares her.
Did we see that point that he actually grabbed the glove, or the next time we didn't see it until the hand touches her? Oh man, these were long tracking shots of Angie walking around this museum like in a complete daze, because like this was weird to me. Like he sits down next to her, and like it's obvious, like, you know, when you're sitting down next to a, you know, attractive looking woman, you can take that as you will about Angie's looks, but she was attractive. You sit down next to a woman in the middle of the museum, you know, you could have been anywhere. So he's obviously, you know, trying to put some type of moves on her. She removes the glove to show the wedding ring, but I feel like she kind of wanted it anyway. You know, she might have been doing it. But like, she gets up, this long tracking sequence. Mind you, there's no dialogue going on right now. There hasn't been any dialogue, and there's still not going to be any dialogue for another 10 minutes. And she's walking, she loses the glove, and then she's walking around, and next thing you know, the hand touches her. And I didn't, like, know what the hell was going on, because the hand touches her, and she gets, like, super freaked out and leaves the museum. Or attempts to leave the museum.
Well,
then she tries to find him, and she can't find him because he took off. And it's just like this cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that he's kind of, like, Brian De Palma's like, I'm going to blow everybody's fucking minds.
But, like,
nothing really happens.
I don't know why, if she wants to cheat on her husband, and this guy is coming up and, like, giving her the eye, she's like, oh, better show him the wedding ring.
But like I said, I think she was being kind of coy about it. I don't think... she obviously didn't turn to him like, oh, leave me alone. That was one of those, like, well, check this out, I'm married, and, like, I'm going to try and walk away. She wanted to be chased. That's the type of things that girls that want to be chased do.
No, that's not the kind of things that girls that want to be chased do.
I mean...
They don't, like, be weird for 20 minutes.
When you're 48 and you're getting them wham bang specials, maybe you'll feel differently.
Yeah, also, we all know where this scene ends up, so I'm going to say that I feel like she was wanting to be chased.
He's, like, staring at her, and she's like, goes to chase, like, walk past him because she's, like, mad that he played that game with her.
Yeah, and that was right after the glove scene when he touched her shoulder.
And then she doesn't remember where she was sitting, and she has to go to the map to find out where she was just sitting.
It's a big museum.
It's a big museum. She hasn't moved more than more than 2 feet.
That tracking shot is through like 2 rooms.
Dude, I want to know how many miles of tracking that Brian was using for this scene, because she was moving all over that museum, and it was one also continuous shot. But like I said, it
felt like an opera because there were no words.
I mean, it was okay. It wasn't like Goodfellas or Reservoir Dogs. Or
it wasn't a good tracking scene. But then like it's just the score is like in the background, so you think like.
Let's not forget, this is when we also started getting introduced to these memory sequences, where we get the half-screen haze.
Where she, like, holds her.
When Angie starts remembering things.
Like, where she left where the glove fell.
Yep.
And, like, her fingers on her face, and she's like, oh, that moment
that was
when
the
I dropped
finger
the
to
glove.
the cheek.
Right? I hope that guy's still there.
So we leave off where he's drawing her from the cab, waving the glove, and she's like, "Oh."
Well, she gets mad and throws her other glove on the ground, which she doesn't pick up when she goes back to the cab.
Yeah.
It's not about the glove anymore.
No, yeah.
But I know. But if I throw my glove on the ground, which is littering, by the way, and then I see my other glove, I'm gonna be like, oh well, I can have the pair again. So I would pick up the glove before getting it from the guy.
She goes over to the cab, and for a second we see the killer. They do a quick kind of pan from Angie Dickinson to the cab. The killer is standing forefront. And when she's going over the cab, we see a hand go and pick up the glove. So the killer has her other glove at that point. And she goes to the cab and she's like, oh, thanks, you got my glove. And he just opens the door and pulls her inside.
By the mouth.
Yeah.
They're making out in the...
They're making out. This was Taxi Cab Confessions going on.
Yeah, but they make... Like, he pulls her in with his face. And he's just like, we're making out.
This is like sloppy kissing.
Yes, yes.
It's
wet.
Passionate and immediate. I bet we're the notes for that scene.
He's starting to rip her shirt off. He went to the Michael Douglas School of nipple licking.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Which is just gently rubbing your face back and forth on it.
We get our first taxi cab orgasm for the podcast, guys.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be more.
Oh,
there
has to be. Has to be.
I also love that the taxi cab guy puts the mirror down like he's gonna...
Of course. Yeah, no, he...
Gotta tip the hat, kinda.
He goes down to Chinatown on her, and it seems like Angie was having a good time. I was having a sexy time at this point.
I thought he was going down on her, too, but then in, like, what it shows you in there, which when she drops the underwear, and then you see his hand going up there, so I didn't think that he went down on her in there. I only thought he was, like, fingering her.
Well,
I thought it was finger bang bang.
Finger
I didn't
bang,
know that
finger
it
bang, bang, bang into my life.
Right. I didn't know that it was the other one.
Well, you never know. That, there might have been a little.
Well, no, they
hand love
say
and
it
kinda
later
like
on.
love.
Yeah, well, yeah, they say it later on. The guy's like,
Dennis
I gotta,
Franz, in no uncertain terms, puts it. Yeah, okay, so.
I got a play-by-play from the cabbie,
Yeah.
sparing no details about how he went down on her.
We go back to this fella's. I think his name's Warren Lockman. We learned quite a few things about Warren later on.
Yes, we did.
We go back to Warren's apartment. He's asleep from all the sexing. She's like, "Oh, I got to go home and my shitty husband and my weird kid."
When he wakes up, you watch her put on her watch, pick
Yes.
up a bangle. She's like putting all of her things back on, and then she goes. She's like getting redressed. So like. It appears she has everything.
Yes.
All together.
You would think that she has
You would
everything.
think, yeah.
But she does not.
No,
So-
and then she does make that creepy phone call home, and like I guess she was expecting her son to answer, which is even weirder. Like you're calling your son from your.
See, I didn't pull that she thinks that she wanted the son to answer. I think you can just see in her face, she's like, glowing a little bit. She was just talking earlier to a psychiatrist about how she wanted to have, extramarital affair. You definitely see the pride in her face. I think it was one of those, like, yes, like, husband, I'll be home shortly. She just seemed like, kind of like almost like throwing it in the husband's face. Not that the husband knows that she's cheating on him, but I think it's just, it's kind of a.
The only reason I say I think the only reason I think she was trying to get a hold of the son is because when it flashes to her home, there's a split screen of her son and her husband, and the husband answers the phone.
There are 30 split screen shots in this movie that really make no sense.
Okay, but this was the first one, so you're led to believe, like, she might have been calling her son. We don't know which one.
Well, the thing that I took away from this that reminded me of Fatal Attraction. This was a time when you could have an extramarital affair and then call your husband or your wife from a phone at that person's house.
No caller ID.
You can't do that now.
Yeah.
Or Star 69. There wasn't none of that at that point.
So then she's sitting there and she realizes she doesn't have any panties, and we get another flashback split screen shot of being like, "Oh yeah, I left the panties in the taxi cab."
That's right.
Exactly. It was weird.
She decides that she's going to leave a note. So she starts writing one. She's like, "I had a great time. We had a great afternoon." She goes through a couple of permutations of it. And then we learn a few things about Warren Lockman, like his name's Warren Lockman. He loves art. He belongs to the Wall Street Athletic Club. He reads Newsweek. And then we open a drawer and we see that there's a medical notice from the Department of Health of New York. You have contracted a venereal disease.
That's not... That'll be probably number 1 to number 2 list of things I don't want to read after having sex with somebody.
Can we also say the note that she leaves him, she starts to write, and it's like, "We had a great afternoon, maybe we'll meet again," and she crosses it out, then writes a new note, then leaves both notes on the telephone before discovering this, and not only does it just, like, a venereal disease, you're like, oh, I guess we won't know what it was, syphilis and gonorrhea. Syphilis is a pretty serious venereal disease.
I mean, it's got the clap and
Right.
syphilis. Yeah.
Maybe that's why he was
2 for 2.
weirdly chasing her
He
in the museum.
looks like a
'cause he's
petri
delirious.
dish. He looks like the birthplace of syphilis.
Yeah, lots of like maybe in like his crazy demented brain.
You know what? And just saying, a couple years later, could have been AIDS.
Easily. Also, I want to point out, I'm not saying that this guy knew that he was going to be bringing home a sexy night to be having a love affair, but is that really just paperwork you just kind of leave strewn about your desk?
To be fair, do you expect your one night stand to just start going through your shit while you're sleeping? Probably.
No, but at this point, if you're dumb enough to be bringing women home, you might want to think about doing some housework,
Right?
let's
Like
not
keep
leave
that
the
in
paperwork
keep
out.
that in your lockbox. Like, well, and like, okay, we're talking about this for how long? It doesn't matter. None of this matters.
None of this makes any difference to the weight of the film.
This is just 40 minutes of the movie you really don't need to see.
Because directly after this point, Angie reads that, gets freaked out, rightfully so.
Well, she starts fleeing, and I get wanting to be out of there or whatever, and she's freaked or whatever. But you don't have to rush because the doctor's office isn't going to be open for like another 12 hours. But she makes her way to the elevator. She doesn't notice the giant woman staring in through like the porthole of the staircase at her, but we totally see it.
It's so upsetting. I was watching
She's
it like,
only like 6'2". Like,
I think I've since this movie had nightmares that people are staring at me through mirrors, or not mirrors, through windows like that.
Then she gets in the elevator and she realizes that there's one more flashback where she realizes she left her wedding ring, which looks like an engagement ring. Just a big diamond.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah,
we pointed out that
there was no actual wedding band on her finger, just the engagement ring.
I'm assuming she forgot it because syphilis had already eaten at her brain. But there's a little girl in the elevator with her mom who's staring at her like, "You're a whore lady, aren't you?
Yeah,
aren't you, whore lady?"
It is kind of like woman having sex shaming.
Yeah, like, it's the walk of shame. That 7-year-old girl was definitely giving her the eyes.
They really pounded home. They're like, if women have random sex, they're gonna get a bunch of venereal diseases, and people are going to judge you immediately.
Yes.
It's very harsh on women. When the person came out of the, not the elevator, but when the person came out of the stairwell and was, like, running toward the closing doors in the beginning, like, because this guy, I keep saying guy.
This guy.
You can put on a front street. It's a man and woman.
It's a man and it's definitely not a woman. But
it could have been
spoilers.
China. It was literally
it could have been China.
It was just
but this guy, he runs out of the elevator, or this woman, she runs out of the elevator and tries to like catch her before the door's shut, but then like stays on that floor, and then like the only reason that she even goes back up is because she forgets her ring. But that person that's trying to murder this woman doesn't think to go downstairs. They're just like, oh, I missed my opportunity.
There was a lot of discussion. This is like the big discussion on IMDb about this movie.
Yeah.
The theory is, went after Angie Dickinson, didn't make it before the elevator closed.
Yeah.
Was going to wait for the next elevator to go down, but then Angie Dickinson came back up. So that's why she's standing there at the elevator.
Is that like the director's reasoning, or is that somebody on IMDb?
No, that was people kind of just walking their way through it. We meet Nancy Allen. She's a hooker with a heart of gold. And Nancy Allen's a big part of my childhood, but not in a sexy way. She was Officer Lewis in RoboCop. Perhaps one of the great unsexy female lead of the 80s.
I definitely, as soon as I saw her face, and I'm like, what do I know her from? And you said that, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, that movie is a huge part of my childhood.
Seeing her in this and a few other things, it's crazy, like, how, like, non-sexualized she is in RoboCop. They just gave her a butch haircut. She's just a cop. She's badass. She has a lot of great action scenes. There's never a point where, like, her relationship with Murphy is totally platonic.
Mm-hmm. Kudos to Paul Verhoeven for keeping it true for Nancy Allen. He held it down for her.
It turns out that Nancy Allen is sexy.
As hell.
Yes. And she's a hooker. She's getting stock tips from her John. At the same time, Angie Dickinson is going back up the elevator to get
the wedding ring.
Her wedding ring. Elevator door opens, and Murder Woman is standing there. And Murder Woman has her straight razor, and she is getting slashed at. She gets it right in the, what is it? Like
initially.
The rip noise that happens when she does it. It's just like
I was not prepared for this. So like, there we get a nice slasher scene, like a really awesome slasher scene. Like she goes to town with her with that straight razor, and I'm like, so Angie's gonna survive this, right? Like she's got to fight this way. Like I figure she's gonna fight her off, get bumps and bruises and scratched up,
or run past her out of the elevator.
I mean, well, this
like,
woman is like 6'2". I mean, like she's trying to fight China. Like,
but she didn't even try to run. Like if I got cut in the hand, then I would take my other one and push somebody and try to run past.
I think Angie was a damsel in distress. I don't think she knew what to do. She's getting attacked with a straight razor. She just found out
an
that she
elderly
has
woman.
syphilis,
She can't
gonorrhea,
run.
Most likely AIDS. Who knows?
Reese, to your point, you talked about Angie getting killed in the first half hour. This is the Brian De Palma Hitchcock love fest because it's essentially Psycho.
Yes.
Where Janet Leigh gets murdered within the first half hour, and then we spend the rest of the movie with another female character who ends up helping catch the killer, who's also in a dress.
That was that nice.
So it's
nice
essentially
illusion. Yeah.
It's very much just a kind of Psycho tribute movie.
It's just upsetting because you invest in a character in the beginning of this movie, and you're like, okay, like, she's not my favorite, but she'll be whatever. And then she just gets pulled out from under you. We find out all this random useless shit about her.
Yeah, we've introduced her family, like you said, invested so much into her already, and like this movie was already been, especially this murder scene, like this is the first time there's been dialogue in the last 20 minutes of the movie is when the mother is with the daughter, and the daughter is staring at
and she's
Angie
like, don't stare at the whore child.
Don't stare at the whore is literally the first dialogue we've had for 20 minutes. So you're dealing with all of that craziness.
Besides awkward moaning.
Yeah. We're dealing with all this craziness, dealing with finding out about syphilis, dealing with gonorrhea, and then she's getting killed. I was really taken back. I was like, wow, like, so
just
where is this
completely
movie
out.
going at this point?
So murder woman kills whore lady. Nancy Allen, she's standing at the elevator. It opens. She sees Angie Dickinson, like, kind of reaching up to her, like, avenge me. And then she dies, and then she almost gets taken out by murder woman.
Was it avenge me or help me?
I think it was like, it might have been a revenge me. Like, it was a fly you fools type moment.
It was like, get me out of this fucking elevator.
This is worse than the shower.
Stabbing me. Yeah.
And she really, Nancy did not try hard at all. That was really slow and awkward. Like,
well, it was like
her
slow-mo,
hands
to be
on her
fair,
face. She's like, oh my god.
The crowd can't see me as I'm trying to reenact my hands reaching out.
It was the slowest reaching. Like, if I saw, like, and the guy is just fucking out.
Oh, dude, he's totally out.
The guy giving the insider trading isn't a white knight, surprisingly.
He's got a family at home. He can't be tied up in a murder investigation with a hooker.
Yeah, but
he's
like,
got his rocks off. He's got things to do.
At that point, we don't know if she's the hooker. He could just have been talking to her at the elevator.
So they're reaching out, and the door is like closing as she's reaching. So she's not really trying hard, and it doesn't
not at all
see the reflection.
She sees a reflection. They have one of those mirrors up in the corner of the elevator.
The knife.
Yeah,
the gleam of the knife catches her eye.
So that's when Nancy realizes that there is a killer in this elevator, and I think the killer was aware of Nancy at that point too, as well, right?
Yeah, They're both staring at each other in the mirror of the
There
elevator.
was a little moment.
The killer drops the razor. Nancy Allen grabs it for some reason, and the elevator closes. And she turns around, and like the cleaning lady from one of her apartments is losing her religion over this because she doesn't even. All she sees is a lady like 20 feet away with like a bloody straight razor. I mean, it's not.
She might have saw the woman. That elevator door was open for so long.
Whatever.
But it's hard to miss.
Yeah, so that's
you can't see the murderer because she's like in front of the panel.
Right.
So maybe she saw her and then she turns around and she's got this knife. Which, by the way, if she had just left the knife where it was, the elevator wouldn't have shut. Or the straight razor where it was, the elevator probably wouldn't have shut. So like she probably could have like helped that woman actually get out. And there is no attempt to help this woman in this movie at all.
Very poor attempt to help her.
Yeah, and like even like if I knew the elevator was going down, then I would be like, "Oh my god, we gotta run and catch the woman." But instead, she's just like yelling at the maid for screaming her head off. She's like, "Call the police! It wasn't me."
We're at Michael Caine's office now, and he gets a message left on his high-tech 1980 answering machine, which is the size of
like a microwave.
And it's just we get the first sense that they are tied to each other. She's like, "Don't make me be a bad girl again." But it's a man's voice. Yeah. So at this point, we're
well, yeah, and the name is Bobby. It's Bobby.
But Bobby, I think it's Bobby. So you like Bobby with an I.
Oh. I don't really. It's funny, women aren't really named Bobby anymore. I don't remember being a giant thing. But yeah, when she's like...
didn't know any female Bobbies doesn't mean that it's not possible.
It's Bobby. I borrowed your razor.
Now we're at the
creepiest voice.
We're at the police station. Nancy Allen went to the police.
Oh, man.
Dennis Franz in all of his fucking glory.
Dude, like, first off, I knew Dennis Franz was going to be in this film, but when I said I knew Dennis Franz was going to be in this film, I didn't mean Dennis Franz playing John Holmes was going to be in this film. Because, dude, the silk shirt, the pinky ring, the medallion, oh man, he was dressed to the nines if the nines were really shitty 70s porno.
Yep.
And I mean, this is a character he would be playing for the rest of his career.
Oh,
He looked every bit of a porn star for the entire time. And he's judging her so hard for being a hooker while he looks like he stars in 4 movies a night.
Scene,
yeah.
So this is years before the NYPD blew fame. Franz was still fighting for the NYPD and still looking like a porn star.
Keith Gordon's there, understandably upset. He's a little guilt-ridden because he could have gone to the museum with Mom, but he had to win those science championships.
You know, his
But you know,
soundboard.
he wants justice.
He does.
You can see it. He's Michael Caine comes over to him and is kind of like, you know, we can talk. You know, if you need my help, he gives him his card. But he's swearing vengeance. And at this point, my note was, this is like an erotic Batman Begins with a transgender Joker. And then I went, holy shit, Michael Caine is in it too.
There you go, man.
What I kept thinking when he was sitting next to him was just like, wow, like, he's really taking advantage of this opportunity to gain a new client. Like,
Yes.
he just was like, listen, you're going to need to talk about your mother's death, and when you do, come to me. Like, I'm the best therapist in town. Look at how well it ended up for your mother.
I mean, but seriously, would you not want to hang out with Michael Caine?
I just thought, like, and I know he's a therapist, so he probably would have been offering help anyway, but the way he did it was so, like, he was, like, pushing it pretty hard, I felt like.
Well, you know, the kid's mom died, so he's trying to...
Yeah, but the kid's like, I don't want to talk, and he's like, you're gonna want to, and the kid's like, no, I won't.
Yeah, he's doing his... I value Michael Caine, his medical opinion. He's trying to
I
be
value
there for...
Michael
He's trying to
Caine's
be there
medical
for little Harry
opinion.
Potter, like, you know, in
He's like,
his time of
listen,
need.
the Goblet of Fire's coming up, kid. You're gonna need to talk to someone.
Michael Caine goes in to talk to Dennis Franz. And Dennis Franz he's like, you bunch of fucking freaks.
Yeah.
He wants you,
Weirdos.
Yeah, fucking weirdos. You need to give me your client list so I know who did this. And Michael Caine's like, no, I can't do that.
And the name of the hospital is Bellevue. What else is that from?
Bellevue
It's a real
Hospital,
place.
it's a very
It's a real
well-known
place. Okay.
mental institution.
I didn't know. It sounded. It sounded like something from Batman.
Yeah.
So when I heard it, I was
They're
like,
all
wait.
up in Arkham.
Is that I know it's Arkham, but I was like,
Speaking
it
of
sounds like something
Batman,
like
Keith
that.
Gordon has a list, I got this thing from a claw machine when I was in 7th grade. One end's got a headphone, the other end's got a little speaker thing. You can put it up the
yeah,
thing.
Inspector fucking Gadget in the hallway.
Keith Gordon gets on his Nancy Drew shit really early in the game, starting right now from that scene.
He invented the computer ring,
at this
so
point-
I don't know if he knew.
From here on out, it is a buddy cop movie with a hooker and Encyclopedia Brown.
Yes, indeed.
Michael Caine won't give up his client list. He wants to protect them. And then, Dennis Franz is dressed like a wild and crazy guy. He goes over and so Dennis Franz is talking about Angie Dickinson getting the head in the cab and how she caught gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And Keith Gordon's just like, oh boy.
Yeah, I get to hear all this.
Yeah,
is
like,
great.
that's your
What an
mom.
awesome day. My mom died and I found out.
I'm
she's
so
alive.
glad I brought this listening device.
I love that, while he's interrogating the guy too, he's, calling them weirdos, and then he's, in, air quotes, he's like, or just somebody with emotional dysfunction, or maladaptation. Those are the made-up words. Weirdo wasn't the... Weirdo's the correct term. Fuck you.
And we're going to return to this because we know this is not the last time we see Dennis Franz, but I just got to point out, this is some of literally the shoddiest fucking police work in the history of cinema. I gotta say.
Well, he's... the whole time he kind of seems like he's a horse's ass, and at the end he is more competent than we give him credit for the whole movie.
This is true, but he himself is a lazy fuck. We
Yeah.
cannot deny that.
He really
he
pushes
lifts
his work on everyone else.
Yeah, he lifts no finger to get this done. He did make a lot of things happen, though. I will say that.
I'm gonna set a lot of motion. I'm gonna set another giant woman
He's
out
not-
to help you.
He's not beating the pavement himself. No.
No.
So then Michael
He's like,
Caine,
I'm at a
Michael Caine
football
takes
game.
off. Nancy Callan comes in and she's talking to Dennis Franz. And this is when we find out that she's a prostitute because Dennis Franz is like, "Look at your mugshot. You're a fucking whore."
You a fucking whore.
And Nancy Allen, I want to point out, is at the time Brian De Palma's wife.
Oh, really?
She's in Carrie, where she plays. I think she plays a pretty slutty character.
Yeah,
She's a whore. She's a hooker in this. The following year, she's also in Blowout, where she essentially plays the exact same part as in Dress to Kill. Now, Shannon, if I was like, I'm going to make a movie, and I want you to play a prostitute, the first time I did it, you'd probably be like, all right, well, maybe he doesn't feel comfortable asking anybody else to play a prostitute in his movie. If I was like, okay, we're making another movie next year, and you're also going to play a prostitute, at that point, what do you think?
I don't know.
See, I'm not touching
I
that
might
one
stop
with a
being
10-foot pole.
so supportive. I'll be like, you know what? It's an opinion of you at that point. The first time, shame on me.
That's definitely some insight into Brian De
Shame
Palma
on
and
you.
Nancy Allen's bedroom.
Right?
She doesn't want to help out either, so Dennis Franz is kind of like, I'm going to charge you with the murder if you don't help out.
Wait, doesn't he... I'm trying to think, because he's the sleaziest detective ever. But he also says something to the effect of, she's like, fuck you. And he's like, fuck me, fuck you, you're the whore.
No. I have this note right now. This is one of my favorite quotes.
You have the line?
Air quotes all over the place. Let's face it, you're a whore. A Park Avenue whore, but a whore nonetheless. That was a great fucking line.
I think he calls her a whore 30 times in this scene. And then at one point, he's like, they're talking about the building, which I thought was weird. Does he have a penthouse in this hotel, or did they get a hotel room?
No, that had to have been that guy.
It has his medical records in it, so I assume it's his apartment.
Yeah. No, he had all his art hanging up on the wall.
But then there was like a maid, and there's a hooker and a John, I thought maybe it was...
A lot of high-rise hotels, especially in big cities, there are people that like actually live there. That's
well,
their
and he
residence.
works on Wall Street with a bunch of venereal
that's
diseases, so he probably has a penthouse.
Yeah, that's typical.
But then he says something like, "What kind of building is this?" And everybody gets laid after lunch.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
There's a lot of fucking and killing going on in that building.
Keith Gordon shows up at Michael Caine's office on a sweet moped.
Dude,
I'm jealous.
Dude, I swear, I told you, that bike looked like he stole it straight from the scene of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Just threw a motor on it. Yeah.
Oh, wait, and the cop tells her to, like, get a hold of the John. He's like, I got questions for that guy. And he's like, he ran the fuck out. And they're like, you gotta find him. So she calls the escort service and is like, hey, I just wanted to get to know him. And they're like, no, you can't. That's not your job.
What is this? Franz gives her like 2 days?
Yeah, it's 48 hours.
48 hours to get to John? Yeah.
The first 48, Reese. They're the most important.
Most important after that, he is lost.
Keith Gordon has designed an elaborate camera setup to try to find out who all of Michael Caine's patients are.
Yes, yeah.
With his stopwatch.
He figures out, he times when they all come and go, and then sets up this camera. And I was kind of like, you're standing out there with a stopwatch for like the entire day. That's not inconspicuous. But you're like, I gotta show. Like, you could have just figured out. Like, you could have just stood there with a camera at that point because you're just as close as you are with the stopwatch.
Yeah, because
nobody's noticing that you're just.
Which is 8 seconds.
I feel like if I was walking out of an office and I just saw somebody 8 feet away from me with a stopwatch, I'd be like, they're timing me. I don't know why, but they're timing me.
Yeah, it was definitely odd because I didn't even know what he was doing at first, but then I remember this is 1980, like this is the age of video cameras and everything like that, and you come to find out he was setting up that camera that was taking images every 8 seconds.
Don't worry, just like he invented the computer, he invented the snap cam, where every 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Which, doesn't he say at one point, it's like, oh, they come out every 8 seconds or something? Like, and he's like, every 4 seconds it takes a picture. So it's like 8 seconds? Like, what, they go in and say hi to their therapist and leave? Like, wait a minute, what?
He has it set for certain times, I think, to take the picture.
Okay, because at first I was like, what?
Well, it's also, it's like an 8mm film reel. It's not pictures, it's actual video. Well, not video, but film. So...
Oh, I didn't know
so
like, what it was.
It's starting and stopping recording.
It's moving pictures.
Man, this kid. Like, let me tell you.
Nancy Allen is talking to her. I guess she has like a madam or somebody that sets up her appointments for her appointment setter. And the lady gets her a job for $500, which is the amount of money she needs to buy into the stock tip that she got from the other John. And this is the point where I wrote down her awesome quote, "Thank God straight fucks are still in style."
Yeah, she was wheeling the deal, and she had 2 phones, you know.
She's 2 house phones, by the way.
Dude, she's fucking buying stocks, and she's fucking setting them fucking dates, you know. She's getting shit done.
She's adorable. Like, I wish she was in everything.
She really was a dime and peach in this movie.
There's another... I think it's before they get to the house, but there's another part where you hear Bobby again.
Oh yeah, is there
like
another
it snaps back to Bobby,
sequence? Yeah,
and
talking to Michael Caine.
Yeah, and he says something like, "I'm glad I took care of that cock teaser," talking about
Angie.
first, talking about Angie.
Well, there's a split screen here while she's on the phone where they're both watching, like her and Michael Caine are both watching this Donahue special.
Yeah, Donahue of transgender.
Is that
special.
when you hear? That's probably when you hear the voicemail. Because
Yeah,
it was
I
like,
think
wait,
so.
it's confusing.
Yeah,
they split screens in this movie are fucking confusing.
This is our first true, real notion that transgender people might have something to do with this film.
Yeah, they're all around you.
They got a focal point right there.
Nancy Allen goes to this John, who's really like, she's really surprised that she showed up,
And she has to explain who she is.
Yeah, and he's like, really? You're the prostitute? I mean...
We're all surprised, sir.
If Nancy Allen showed up on your doorstep when you ordered an escort, wouldn't you be surprised as well?
Who are you?
I'd be like, wow, you're Nancy Allen from Dressed to Kill. I was expecting Nancy Allen from RoboCop. She finishes up, and there's not really much to the scene. She just kind of does her business, gets her money, and then this is when she starts getting followed by Bobby. Bobby, to describe it to somebody who hasn't seen the movie, is essentially, like, whenever, it's not a very feminine transgender person. It's just like a kind of like
it's
blonde.
A dude in a wig. And
blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, like blonde, like kind of bob hair.
Imagine
and
like
a jacket.
Imagine like the Uma Thurman wing for Pulp Fiction, but blonde.
And red lipstick. And a trench coat.
6'2" easily. Weighing, gotta be at least 215, 220.
Not
Sunglasses, hat.
Kind of dressed like the Terminator.
Yes,
sort of.
yes.
Little Terminator vibe going on.
The killer follows Nancy Allen into the subway, and Nancy Allen to try to...
Oh wait, but don't skip, because she gets... Don't forget the cab, because that's kind of an important part.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because she gets the cab, and as soon as she hops in, she's like, leave this guy, like, I'm getting chased. So, like, she's getting chased, so the cabbie's like whipping the streets of New York City, and she's like, thanks so much, gives him a great tip, and actually the guy was hitting on her. Did they exchange numbers?
No, they never exchanged numbers, but he's like,
I'll call you. Okay, I do remember that. I hadn't noted that. He says, I'll call you, but
don't worry.
He was like this baby-faced, smart-ass, like Jimmy Olsen type of kid.
Yes, totally. Like, that would have been a role that Shia LaBeouf would have played if this movie was made in the 2000s. Like, it was totally that character from iRobot.
Yeah, just that random.
Yeah, that random young, like, whippersnapper kid. But anyway, he gets her away from the killer. Nancy Allen gets out, runs to the subway, and he comes through for her like a champ, because you see this big woman coming up from behind the cab. You know, oh my God, he's chasing Nancy Allen. Boom, cabbie hits the chick with the door. So you're like, oh cool, Nancy Allen's going to be safe. Wrong. She gets into the subway, and who but another large woman right there to kill her, which confused me. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't the cabbie just knock out a huge woman chasing Nancy Allen?
Everyone wants to kill Nancy Allen.
There's so many women chasing Nancy Allen. Large women chasing Nancy Allen.
Women and groups of black men.
Yes.
So she decides that I gotta get near other people in the subway so that I can't get murdered.
So I'm gonna go down to the dark.
And there are a number of other people over there that she could have gone. There's an old woman. There's a business guy. She went over to the two black guys. Fine, she's colorblind. Good.
It's all good.
But
it's like the creepy very end of the subway. Like, nobody's really there. I feel like there's not a lot of lighting. Just a couple guys.
I mean, she's a whore, so she's probably dealt with seedy characters in her lifetime. I gotta say, these two black guys seemed like your average.
They didn't seem that mean.
They're kind of just jamming out to a transistor radio. They seem to be having a good time. Yeah. And I don't remember this part. I didn't remember this part, and I was kind of like, really, this fucking happens? So
yeah.
They realize that this white woman is on top of them, just kind of like brushed up against them, and then they get rapey. And
he's like, you weren't bothering me, but you were bothering my friend. He's like, what does he say? He says something about beating her.
The third dude comes out of nowhere.
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
From behind the column, the third dude, this big black dude, comes out of nowhere, who also seems like transgendered, like a female to male transsexual. Yeah. We've got a mustache, but it's just like had a kind of feminine voice. Reminded me of like the fat kid that ends up the new pan at the end of Hook.
Yes.
Like, are you bothering me?
Yeah.
And then they start to accost her, at which point she runs onto the train, and it's okay that this black gang was about to gang rape her, because the cop's black too, guys.
Yeah.
Who's totally useless, doesn't believe her.
Dude, as useless, if not more, well, definitely more useless than Dennis Franz.
Well, you know what? Like, he definitely doesn't trust her because she's dressed like a whore. And that's the thing. We're led to believe she's... No, in that one, here's the thing. Before, she was dressed... When she's dealing with the other fella, like the
was it the boa?
The
stockbroker?
Yeah.
She's wearing like a pantsuit. She's kind of dressed nice. When she went to go see this other guy who maybe he's like a low level, like a salesman or whatever, because he's staying in a hotel.
Oh, and also that John, the second John, another amazing quote. Are you gonna pump me dry right here, or are you gonna let me in? That was an amazing quote. Love Nancy Allen.
But, like, the cop does little to nothing to investigate. Like, he just kind of looks out the door, and he's like,
being chased, and he looks.
He's like, there's an old woman getting on the train down there.
I see nothing. You must be
like,
lying.
there was a group of guys back there. Yeah, and, like, nothing. He doesn't investigate at all. Which, what is your purpose if you are not on there to investigate train, problems?
The transit cop gets off the train.
Yeah, next stop, he's off.
The black gang.
But, like, before he does that, he just stares at her so awkwardly for the next, 10 minutes.
An awkward, 3-minute sequence, which
just,
add to the litany of awkward shots throughout this entire film.
Yeah, which, at first he's just, okay, I'm looking at you because I don't see anybody, but then he's kind of, it drags.
It's a judging thing. He definitely was just, kind of looking down at her, alright, whore, whatever. That was what I took from that.
And you had no reason to get on the subway, so, when a stop comes with a cop, why wouldn't you just follow him out?
That's what I said. Why would you just stay with the cop? At that point, even if he doesn't want to
get
deal
out
with
with
you,
him.
just stay on top of him. He can't make you go away.
You can get on that subway again later when, the giant woman and the group of rapers aren't on there.
Cop gets off, she stays on. The gang got on the train. They ran to the next stop, made it, got on the train, and now they're ready for a raping.
Oh, yeah.
So they start encroaching on her. They're getting up towards her. She goes to get into the next car where Bobby is standing in between the rails with her straight razor.
Yep.
But it's okay because we're joined once again by Keith Gordon, who has.
Should we call him Harry Potter?
Okay,
we call him Harry. Harry Potter was waiting for her.
But he has a bat transsexual repellent that he sprays in Bobby's face, which I guess was he said at one point it was dry. It was dry ice or something.
Yeah. So it was kind of a homemade mace. My man he's got recording devices. He's making cameras. He's making computers. He's home brewing mace. This is the type of guy you want on your team.
He's the real gem of the movie. His mom was a slut, but he really came through.
Yeah.
So they get away. They go back to Nancy Allen's apartment, and
overcome.
This boy is in an apartment with a beautiful prostitute who's very friendly and open and in her pajamas, and he does not. I know he's got other things in his mind, but he does not try to get my mom just died sympathy lay.
No, and Nancy didn't push it on him at all. I think that.
Well, how old is Harry Potter?
He's got to be
16,
17. I would say 16, 17. He's riding a bike, so he's obviously not old enough to have a car. Because I'd imagine Angie.
She could get arrested, right?
Angie and her husband seemed like they made enough money that if he was old enough, he would have had a car. You know what I mean? So he's riding around on his bike, so she's got to be 16. He's going to science fair.
He's riding around on his bike.
Yeah. He's going to science fair still. He's got to be 15,
He's pretty
16.
much got a mustache, though. It's a little weird.
Yeah, there might have been some age discrepancies with the actor and his actual character, but he's 16, I'd say.
Nancy Allen goes back to Dennis Franz. Now he's going, well, you couldn't get a hold of your John, but you can get me that Michael Caine appointment book because I can't get it legally. So he's skirting around it. He doesn't flat out say you have to do this, but he's like, I'm going to charge you a murder, and it'd be very convenient for you if this Michael Caine appointment book showed up.
Yeah.
Wait, can we say that she goes there and she's like, this woman is trying to kill me. Doesn't mention the group of black men that tried to rape her. She's done with them. She's a pastor.
I'm guessing walking in the subways in New York City in 1980, being raped by groups of black men is probably not that uncommon. Who's going to bring that up to Dennis Franz? He's obviously getting nothing done on the murder front.
He obviously doesn't give a fuck about her. He'd probably be like, you're a whore, you like that. He probably would say some shit like that.
Meantime, Michael Caine goes to Bobby's new doctor.
Oh man!
Bobby's no longer seeing Michael Caine. She has a new psychiatrist, and it's the mayor from Ghostbusters. And
Totally
Ghostbusters
awesome. When I see this song, I'm like, dude, that's Lenny from Ghostbusters.
You know what? I forgot to look up his name. I'm gonna have to look it up. But very young here. Michael Caine's kind of like, you have to help me with Bobby. Yes, Bobby.
That's your shit.
So he's like, you got to help me with Bobby, and he kind of infers that Bobby is behind all these murders, and he's like, she stole my straight razor, and she's committing all these murders with it, and it's gonna, I'm gonna be involved in this. The other psychiatrist is like, oh boy, he's all of a sudden he's like, oh okay, why don't you come back to my office? Michael Caine's like, no, I have an appointment, I gotta take off. So Dennis Franz wants Nancy Allen to steal the appointment book, so she goes to Keith Gordon, and they come up with a plan to steal the book, which involves Nancy Allen going to Michael Caine's office and setting up an appointment.
Yeah.
At night during a thunderstorm.
Yes.
There is always rain in erotic thrillers.
And properly timed
lightning streaking in through the window.
I tried to hammer home last time when we just with the Fatal Attraction they met in the rain. There's always rain.
So Nancy Allen,
she starts talking about her dream. She's like, "Oh, my dream is dirty. I don't want to talk about it." You can tell
the plan is totally to seduce Michael Caine,
right?
Which I am all in for. I think that would have been a sexy sex scene.
I
don't know why.
Anything sexy about Michael Caine. I was going to throw that out there. I love Michael Caine.
He's a young looker in this movie. He's really young.
Guy, don't get me wrong, but I feel like sex with him would be like very cardboard and very not fun.
You're assuming.
Like I feel like he's like a Sean Connery type. He'd throw you around a little bit.
Yeah. You think?
Especially like because you can kind of tell like he's like I'm married, so he's like real like uptight, and she thinks like she's gonna like get it out of him anyway.
She details this elaborate rape fantasy she has.
Yes.
With the intent to get him excited, and the whole time he is just like so droll. He is so British in the face of the thirstiest seduction ever on film.
Does she say that she gets strangled in the shower?
I don't remember.
What was the dream? Was it something like that?
She does bring up choking fantasy, but I don't think she says anything about being strangled in the shower.
I think that Brian De Palma has a choking thing.
Yeah, Brian De Palma most likely has a choking thing. I could have guessed that before I even
Everybody
saw this
wants to get choked in this movie. Like, he's choking bitches out.
Brian De Palma has a lot of things.
Straight razor fetish.
She strips off her outfit to reveal this negligee thing she's got going on. Keith Gordon's outside the whole time, kind of surveilling to help out. Michael Caine doesn't seem to be that into it. But then she's like, I'm going to go in the other room. I'm going to just wait for you there. And then when you're ready to come in and get it on, we can do it. So she goes in the other room.
But then she says, but if you don't want to, then we'll get back to the mind fuck.
Yes, she does throw that in there.
So she actually slinks into his like inner office. Where his appointment book is. So she closes the it's one of those rolling doors. Mm-hmm. Michael Caine, who doesn't seem to be that into it, all of a sudden he looks in the mirror on his desk and just grins.
Dude, my notation of that, like, he was proud of himself. He was like, this is about to happen.
All of a sudden, he was playing it cool. All of a sudden, he's got the swagger. He's starting to undo his tie. So she's in there in her underwear, and she's looking through his appointment book. And she gets the name of the last person at the end of the day, who for some reason, they had figured out was the killer.
No, because we skipped a little tidbit scene of when Harry Potter and Nancy were hanging out. They were reviewing the tape.
They reviewed the tape, so whoever the last person is, the last appointment for the day is the killer.
And the last appointment is Michael Caine. Yeah, spoilers.
The last appointment is Michael Caine. Michael Caine is the therapist.
Son of a bitch. No, it's Bobby as the woman.
So Keith Gordon's trying to figure out what's going on because he sees some activity. It looks like something's going on. It looks like the killer might be in there. So he kind of gets up closer, and he's tripping all over the place.
In the rain.
And then all of a sudden, it looks like Bobby grabs him from behind and is, like, suffocating him. Yeah. So, like, shit.
Big woman comes up from behind Harry Potter and starts to choke him out.
And then Nancy Allen's like, hey, babe, what are you doing? So she opens the door, and it looks like Bobby's inside with a knife. Yeah. Like, with a straight razor coming at her. And then all of a sudden, we get a gunshot through the window, and the killer is thrown back, is laying down.
Gunshot to the neck, too.
Was it in the neck?
It was like a neck graze.
In the neck,
it was a neck graze. Like, wasn't fatal, but it definitely took him down.
It was like the neck shoulder.
Yeah. And we're like, what the fuck? Dennis Franz shows up.
Well, no, they go back to the it pans back to.
They pan over to the window, see where the gunshot comes from. You see Potter, and you see the large woman out there. The large woman is the one who fired the shot, and then they pan back over to the killer with the straight razor on the floor. And we come to find out the big twist in the movie that we've given up 30 times in this podcast, that Michael Caine was actually the killer.
We tried so hard. I mean, you
Michael
two tried. I didn't try.
So
Michael Caine's Bobby.
One of the things that really bugs me is that Michael Caine, we barely see him as Bobby.
Yeah.
We always see him as kind of rolling around on the ground with, like, the wigs off. He's kind of just laying there.
They have the lead. I didn't figure it out for a long time, and I was watching it with someone who was like, "Oh, so it's totally the psychiatrist." And I went, "No, it's not. Like, you're stupid."
So at this point, it's just been a collection of scenes, and now Dennis Franz and Bobby's psychiatrist and this giant Nordic detective woman.
Can I say I wrote tranny cop because he's like one of the best police persons, and so I was like, oh, he doesn't know. And then Ben was like, no, that's just a woman. I was like, what? And he's like, they didn't say police women back then.
It's like the kindergarten cop and junior mashup movie, Tranny Cop.
Fucking misogynistic bullshit.
I love Shannon was like so happy because they were like, wow, forward thinking, having a transgender
cop. That was amazing.
So we've seen a bunch of shit's been thrown at us this whole movie, and now it's kind of like, oh, we're just going to kind of offhand explain it. It turns out that Dennis Franz knew that there was another killer that Nancy, I keep want to say Karen Allen from fucking Indiana Jones. Nancy Allen wasn't the murderer.
Don't drag her into this.
So he had this giant woman detective tailing Nancy Allen. So then when Nancy Allen was like, this woman's following me, he thought it was just the detective. But there was Bobby who was also following him. Yeah. So that's also why it looked like there was two killers.
Yes, yes.
And then we get the explanation for what's going on with Michael Caine's character. And it's fucking atrocious.
Whenever somebody gives him an erection, he needs to kill them.
They equate being transgendered to being a schizophrenic.
Yes.
And the worst part is what they actually mean is having a multiple personality disorder. So they're all over the place. And I would say that this is, it's antiquated, obviously. Like, this didn't, I don't think Dress to Kill ruined anyone's lives. But it's dangerous. Yeah. It's dangerous to be like, oh, this person has a split personality, and that's why they feel this way.
It is dangerous. Yeah, it was very rude. I thought
it was just all encasing
this guy's
diagnosis.
They might as well have called him a weirdo. Yeah, they might as well just be like, you're a weirdo with one of those maladaptations.
They have a scene like this at the end of.
When his penis becomes erect, he must kill.
The female part of him is angry at the male part of him. So whenever the male's part is aroused by a woman, the female Bobby kills the woman.
Yeah.
Which is why she probably did kill the secretary. He was
right?
probably aroused by the secretary.
And the wife would be my assumption. I don't know that there's ever a wife.
There might not have actually ever been a wife.
There's not now.
Yeah, if there was, Bobby
if there was,
take care of it.
She's dead as fuck somewhere. No way.
But you would get a better professional opinion from Dr. Scholes about. And there's a scene like this in Psycho at the end too, where they kind of wrap everything up by explaining it. Yeah. And it's funny here because Nancy Allen and they had these like school kids, like those little desk chair combo things.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there and they're listening to this explanation and nodding like kids. It's kind of funny. Keith Gordon's not there for some reason. He's like, how are we going to explain this to Harry Potter that this is how his parents died or his mom died? And
which is so like weird. They're like, let's just send the fucking prostitute to do it. Like this kid hasn't had enough.
Doesn't she say that she'll talk to him?
Yeah, but
she's like, oh wow.
You think it's going to be really delicate, and it's not. They're in a restaurant at the World Trade Center, and she's like, so
R.I.P.
Yeah, some people, some men, they want to be women, and sometimes they get their dick split in half and it's turned into a vagina, and the kid's not mad about his mom at this point. He's like, oh, really? Like, suddenly it's like...
She doesn't bring up his mom, really.
Yeah, he doesn't want, but he doesn't want vengeance anymore. Now he's fascinated by this transgender thing.
I think at this point in the film, I think Harry Potter's ready to fuck Nancy Allen. I think he's finally
like... He's like, I'll listen to whatever you say as long as sex comes at the end.
I got my closure. We've killed the murder. Vengeance is mine. Like, let's get it on. Type of conversation.
Yeah, but then she says something like trans-op surgery or vagioplasty for us in the know. Like, get the fuck out of here. You don't know nothing.
But the kid gets his pity fuck. Which is, like, the best part of the movie. Yeah. Look, I can't imagine... I wish I'd seen this when I was a kid, because I would have been, like... Because even though, if I was Sam 10, I see, like, a guy... I know he's supposed to be, like, 16 or whatever, but it's still... it's essentially,
this kid has a chance with Nancy Allen? Maybe so do I.
I love it. I was always a big fan of, like, those movies where, like, the kids would solve a crime. Like,
they
like,
never show them fucking.
They fucked.
Oh, they fucked. It happened. It totally happened. Because, I mean, they allude to it, because then the next thing happens, which we have to make sure we talk about this, because it was one of the most infuriating scenes in the movie, and then they wash it all away by making it be a dream sequence, but after that, she's in bed, and Harry Potter comes to her side.
But if I'd seen this as a kid, and I'd been like, I love those stories of, like, kids solving crimes or whatever, a young guy, like, I'd have been like, oh my god, it's about a kid solving his mom's murder, this is awesome. I don't want my mom to get murdered, but if it happens, I'm solving that crime. Yes. But at the end, I also get to have sex with a beautiful prostitute. I'd be like, this is amazing.
Yes, win-win.
No way. I do not think they had sex, because that bed that she wakes up in isn't, like, tousled and she's, like, half nude. She's, like, in a large nightgown under, like, covers of a bed that's clearly made.
She likes to be comfortable.
Yeah.
She did not have sex with that kid.
I'm totally saying she had sex with the kid. I believe it was post-court.
I don't believe it.
Oh, we got a little controversy on Sexy Time Theater.
No, she did not have a 15-year-old. That's so wrong. They better not have done that. No.
What's so wrong about that?
What's so wrong about that?
We go to
the law is what's so wrong about that.
Let's
Reese, let's
continue with the film.
No, guys, we have to stop and Google New York's age of consent in 1980 and find out.
Like, it's fine.
Hey, Harry Potter just solved those mother's crime. If nothing else, his reward should be able to sleep with the Park Avenue whore. a whore, but a Park Avenue whore nonetheless.
Right. It's the Order of the Park Avenue whore.
So
Harry Potter end.
We're in the psych ward where they're keeping Michael Caine, and this is clearly like these are all criminally insane people, but it's in a communal bunk bed cot kind of situation. Everybody's in one room.
Yeah, I had a total freaky vibe from that scene. Like, as I'm watching this unfold, I'm like, this seems like something from, like, this looked like the basement from People Under the Stairs. Like it was, like, fucking just craziness, crazy people everywhere. It was dark.
It's stupid, but it's pretty stupid, but there's a really cool part we'll get to, but...
Do you think the blue lens is what made you mad?
No.
It's
all
bluey.
shot in the blue lens. Blue.
The nurse comes in to feed everybody, and... She goes up to Michael Caine, whose arm's in a sling from the gunshot, and he seems to be unconscious. He's laying halfway off the bed, and she's like, oh, he's out on his medicine. He's got like a soup cup or something on his chest. She goes to pick that up, and he grabs her, and he starts... Do you strangle her?
Yeah.
Yeah, he chokes her out.
He chokes the life out of her, and as he's doing that, we kind of pan up to see there's 2 other levels to this, and it almost looks like an operating room theater. There's all these criminally insane dudes like leering over the edge of the balconies, looking down, like
cheering them on. Yeah.
And that was really cool looking. It reminded me of like one of the Freddy Krueger movies where they're like explain his origin, and they're like, oh, his mother was in a mental hospital, and she was the only woman, and she was raped by
1,000 maniacs.
The bastard son of 1,000 maniacs. So he kills her, and he's stripping off her clothes, and at that point they're like, yeah. So he gets the nurse's
outfit. It's a really
outfit.
long scene too, where he's like taking off the shoes and like putting them on her stomach.
As this is unfolding, as we're watching the film, I'm like, Brian De Palma, like, you're truly trying to tell me that I'm supposed to believe that this man who just murdered most likely multiple, like 2 to 3 fucking women during a period of time, he's now in the hospital for criminal insane.
He's in Gen Pop.
Yeah, he's in Gen Pop, and enough that he can kill this nurse. And obviously, once he kills the nurse and starts stripping her clothes off, you're like, oh, so he's going to take the uniform and escape. And I'm like, how?
He doesn't have his wig on him.
Am I that much of a moron that I'm supposed to believe that this guy can get away with murder inside the hospital, wear this 5'2" fucking nurse's uniform?
That nurse is definitely not a giant man. It wasn't trainee nurse.
No, it was not trainee nurse. Not like trainee cop.
Michael Caine has a nice waistline, but he's a big dude. He's not fitting into that.
Get into the uniform
nice
and then sneak out. And then obviously this is going to lead up to him trying to come back for revenge and murder Harry Potter and Nancy Allen. Which, I mean, it leads up to the next scene. I was just like, really, dude? Like, I'm supposed to buy this? Like...
Yeah, and, like, I'm sorry, he did not have his makeup kit or his wig. No one would believe him as a nurse.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Like, you can take her clothes, but you can't take her makeup.
That totally took
hair.
me out of it so much.
Ugh, maybe you can.
I would assume that a nurse at Bellevue in that ward probably looks like Michael Caine.
And listen, with that many people in there, you're going to tell me one nurse was taking care of all those people?
I imagine
there'd be more than one nurse
on
the thing.
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, maybe, but...
Michael Caine escapes dressed as a nurse.
Definitely a
Go
man.
to Keith Gordon's house. We don't see... Was the stepdad there?
No, the stepdad picks them up at the detective's office in the first scene, and we never see him again. All we hear is that he's my stepdad. He's not my real father. That's all you hear.
Yeah.
But he's he's out of town. The next time when she's
like,
like,
open for him to have a fuck fest with Nancy Allen.
But he doesn't.
Just saying.
No, she's in a separate room than him. I think she's in the Wham Bam bed, isn't she?
Actually, she might have.
Because she slept in his parents' room because he didn't sleep there.
We're not there.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We get like one of those point of view shots where he's creeping up to the window. Nancy Allen's in the shower in all of her glory, and that's totally Nancy Allen.
Yes.
I did not know that they had removable shower heads that early on. Like, they just have the shower head where she can move it around. I didn't know that. I thought that was a newer invention. I don't know why.
She gets out of the shower, right? And
yes.
She hears noise, or she sees...
She sees the shoes.
She sees the shoes. She sees the white nurse's shoes. The shoe tips are like sticking out. Because, Michael Caine is easily wearing a size 11, and he's not fitting his foot into that nurse's shoe. But regardless of that, let's continue.
I don't know, they look pretty giant.
But she, unlike before where she had time to get away, there's no place to go. He gets in there, slices her throat.
Yep. He's got the straight razor.
It's a very long scene. We're cutting it down. It was a long time she was in the shower just staring at those shoes.
Well, you know what? Things move slow when you're in a dream sequence, bitch.
Yes, boom, dream sequence, and we find out she was asleep the entire time. And I take it back. I'm like, all right, De Palma, I don't hate you anymore.
Can we just say... Wait, did she obviously... So that scene was obviously a dream where he was getting choking out.
The night terror.
So let's just say, even though we have spoken a lot about getting choked out, not one person actually dies of getting choked out in this movie at all.
No.
Not one. It's all dream sequences.
All dream sequences. Probably speaks even more to De
the
Palma.
fetish.
Yeah, De Palma's fetish.
He's like, I dream about this, people.
She wakes up from this night terror and she's screaming, and the movie ends with Keith Gordon running in his pajamas and kind of comforting her.
That was a nice
not
shot,
naked.
too. I like that shot. Yeah, no, he wasn't naked.
No, because they didn't have sex.
Well,
you guys
he
are
puts his clothes
projecting.
on after sex.
I kind of like the ending because it was kind of the whole
He
time.
was in a different room.
The whole time, she's very plucky, and she doesn't seem to be like she's upset, but she doesn't seem to be that bothered that she's being chased by this maniac.
Yeah.
But then at the end, you realize this is going to stick with her for the rest of her life, and that was kind of a cool.
Yeah.
It's the life of a whore, Ben. Not any regular whore. Park Avenue whore.
Whore nonetheless.
So that was Dress to Kill. Before we sum it up and figure out whether or not it was sexy, it's time for a few titillating tidbits.
Ooh.
Can you do that every time I say titillating? All right, we won't need a theme for that as long as every time I go titillating tidbits.
Ooh.
There we go.
The soothing sounds of sexy time theater.
Brian De Palma got the idea for this movie from his childhood. His mother believed that his father was cheating on her.
He also wanted to fuck a prostitute.
He also built a computer. He wanted to fuck a prostitute.
His mother said, "Well, you know what? I think your father's having an affair. I need you to go spy on him."
Really? That happened?
Fuck?
He got the inspiration from the Keith Gordon character from his own life.
Wow, that's interesting.
And the mother stuff brings up a lot as far as, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch his movies without being like, there's some fucked up mother stuff.
Now, thinking back on the movies that I've seen of De Palma's, mommy issues galore throughout his films.
If it was about his mom, he could have cut the cab scene.
Well,
I don't know, the masturbation dream sequence in the beginning that really had no point. The cab scene is relevant. The opening sequence is not.
Well, speaking of the shower scene, it was originally got an X rating from the MPAA.
Oh.
I take that.
They had to cut out.
They were strict. Yeah.
They made him cut out gore, and they made him cut out like some of the blood from some of the probably the elevator scene.
Oh, I would love to see the unedited version of this.
It's 30 seconds longer.
Oh. He didn't cut much.
More blood and more pubic hair.
Nope. I don't want to see.
Because you know what? It's funny. You don't see any pubic hair.
What? You see it when she's
do
massaging herself?
In the first opening
with
scene of the show,
soap?
you see a little bit of pubic hair. They're probably just cut
with
out more
bar
scenes
soap.
of it.
How upsetting is that?
But I like to think the MPA they weren't like, we're trying to protect kids from seeing pubic hair. I wanted them to be like, this is like a prescient thing. One day, we're going to protect these movies' integrity. They'll still be relevant because nobody has pubic hair in the future.
Yeah, see?
What do they call it? A merkin? And like, is that what they had on?
Yeah,
Wait,
totally
you see what's her face's bush too, don't you, Nancy?
Yeah, no, we don't get any Nancy Poon. I don't think. You get her boobs though.
No, because she turns around in the shower. I'm pretty sure you do.
Do we?
I feel like you two would have remembered that better than me, but I thought you did.
I was so pissed off at that final scene as it was happening because I thought that I was really being led to believe that Michael Caine was doing all that shit at the end of the movie that I was kind of taken away. Nancy Allen's tits saved me and brought me back in the game, but I don't remember if we got
Her
pushed
kids
though.
saved me. I would argue they saved many people in this movie.
And the last trivia tidbit, this is actually one of my gripes with the movie. Bobby is never played at any point by Michael Caine in the movie. The woman who plays the undercover cop who's following her also plays Bobby.
Wow,
which is good. I mean, it's a good idea because you're trying to get across that they're supposed to look the same. Mm-hmm. But it bugs me that Michael Caine, like, you have Michael Caine. He's a wonderful actor, and he was game for this. Yeah. This is at a time when, like, Sean Connery was game for it too. But you're not going to get a ton of respected macho actors
to feel this way,
be comfortable with doing this. And maybe this is one of his kind of things. Was I don't ever have to be in the dress or whatever, except for the one scene. But you have Michael Caine. I would have loved to see him vamping around in this dress and just trying to be like him. See him playing.
You want to see him be Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I could have definitely dealt with some Michael Caine Buffalo Bill behind the scene where...
He probably would have been awesome doing that.
We never get that, and of course, a couple times we hear the voicemails. I was talking about this with Shannon. It wasn't his voice. It was, I guess they had somebody else doing the voice of Bobby.
Yeah.
But
It
I
was
would
a
love to hear
throw.
his woman voice, his
Misdirection.
American woman voice. That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
So it's time, guys. We're gonna go around our inner circle here and determine whether or not it was sexy. Reese,
Oh man,
if you will.
It was at times extremely sexy. There was a lot of nudity, which I'm all game for. There really wasn't actually a lot of sex. I think we actually only witnessed one sex scene, which was the opening sex scene in the dream sequence.
2, because you in the cab.
Oh, no, actual
that's
sex.
foreplay.
That's foreplay.
That's oral sex.
Yeah, oral sex doesn't count. We only see one actual sex
Bill
sequence.
Clinton taught us that.
Yeah. and on top of that sex sequence, which was supposed to be, was a very subpar sex sequence. You know, it was the Wham Bam special. You know, it wasn't anything great about that. For me, seeing Nancy Allen's tits at the end of the movie should automatically make me say that I had a sexy time watching this film. Michael Caine, to me, not really doing it for me. Not really one of the sexiest men in the world, I think. I'm not saying he's an unattractive guy, but I don't really get a sexy vibe from him. I don't know. I gotta say, all in all, I didn't have a sexy time, except for the fact that Nancy Allen saved the last 5 minutes of the film.
Okay.
You saved it.
But you hated the movie, though, right?
But, all right, and let me shortly explain this. I'm not gonna say that I hated the movie. I enjoyed the film. I felt like it felt really, really bad. There was like a lot of there was the split screen shots that really meant nothing, that had no weight to them whatsoever. There was the long tracking. The entire museum scene as a whole just bothered me.
It just felt unnecessary.
It felt really unnecessary. There was a lot of tracking.
Yeah,
I
agree
Angie
with
just
that.
running around the museum in a daze, not sure what was going on. And I understand and I get why they did it, but to me, it didn't seem to flow very well. It seemed really unnatural. I don't know. Something about the film just kind of bugged me. It really just something didn't sit right with me. I gotta say, I won't say it was one of the top 10 worst movies I've ever seen.
You retract.
I redact that statement, but it definitely was not done well. It seemed like what was. Well, I didn't even have a note.
It could have been a sex movie. I think is what you're trying to say.
And I was like, I was like, all right. Here's where the film begins to open up. And by open up, I mean seem a lot like a film student's poor excuse for cinematography. And that was my reference to the entire museum scene. And the entire movie just kind of seemed like a film student's really poor way of trying to replay Hitchcock. And it just didn't really nail it down perfectly. The performances were great for a 1980s film. You know, it was hammy at times, but what do you expect in that era? But I don't know, just something about the cinematography just seemed a little sophomoric.
Okay, Shannon, was it sexy?
I do not think it was sexy. I think that there were definitely, I think it's hard with erotic thrillers to say that they were sexy the entire time because it's usually mixed with blood and gore. To, say,
Wait, that's not sexy?
Yeah. My husband, ladies and gentlemen. No, but I don't know. I thought there were definitely sexy parts. The cab scene gets steamy.
Yeah, there was definitely sexy parts.
I wish it was Nancy Allen. And that's I feel like the running theme with these movies. I'm like, I wish it was a sexier person that they put in all of the sex scenes. I mean, to be fair, the opening scene, that's not,
That's not even actually Angie.
What's her name?
No.
Angie. But you're made to believe it is, so then that was weird. It took me out of it. I would say it's not sexy. Not a sexy time.
You did not have a sexy time.
Nope.
Okay. It's weird for me.
Oh wait, Ben, did you have a sexy time?
Never forget, Shannon.
Right?
Thank
I always forget to do that.
Thank you.
Sorry, baby.
No. It's funny when we were gonna watch it and I was going into it, I was thinking, okay, the first half hour with the Andrew Dickinson stuff is probably be sexy, and after that, it's not gonna be. But that wasn't sexy. It was early 80s grimy kind of.
Yeah. The soft edges are what really do it.
You're right. Nancy Allen's the MVP of this movie in the sexy department.
Yeah, really.
And they didn't
Even
use
in,
her.
The performance department, I'd say, Michael Caine never gets a chance to really, stretch his muscles. Keith Gordon's fine. But Dennis Franz is awesome, but You don't really see him. Nancy Allen kind of carries the movie from the point when Angie Dickinson dies, and she's awesome. I mean, there was some. It seemed like there was some divisiveness about that among some people because she was nominated for a Golden Globe and a Razzie for this movie.
Wow.
But fuck whoever nominated for that Razzie. Fuck them.
When you just said with her carrying the movie, if they had even like added a sex scene with a John, it might have been even like good. Like throw in or like had her had sex with Michael Caine.
I do gotta say,
it would have been sexier.
At least Brian didn't force in a useless sex scene. I would have loved to see
her
Nancy
Michael
Allen sex scene.
Caine having sex at the end could have been like him, and then like turns on her.
That could have worked.
And Harry Potter could have watched
Wouldn't
from the
it be amazing
bushes.
wouldn't it be amazing if he was
if
like he was like taking her from behind or whatever, and then she looks in the mirror, and all of a sudden he has the wig on.
And just go like we just came up with a way better ending for this movie.
This is the second week in a row where we came up with a better ending.
I think we're gonna end up doing this a lot with the end. Of
this will be a segment, yeah.
How we would have ended it.
So, Dressed to Kill, not sexy. Nancy Allen's sexy. Honestly, I said this to Reese because he didn't like the movie. If you want to wash the taste of this movie out of your mouth because you didn't enjoy it, watch the next movie Brian De Palma made, Blowout, with John Travolta, Nancy Allen once again a prostitute, Dennis Franz once again a scumbag. It's awesome. Such a great movie.
De Palma is married to was married to her,
and she's retired from acting. I'm assuming because she got that Brian De Palma money.
Yeah.
I wish she still acted because she was in I think she was in a Law and Order.
I mean, if this was 80s and she was married to him, and as long as she stayed with him, like post 83, and then she definitely saw that Scarface.
Get that Scarface money, get that Untouchables money.
Yeah.
It's not that sexy, even though Nancy Allen once again is a hooker. Check out Blowout. That's Ben's personal pick.
Okay.
I mean, my biggest problem outside of all that, Michael Caine would never make a convincing woman because his Adam's apple is the size of a tangerine. And I'm done. All right. Good time, guys. I enjoyed it. We can talk about next week's movie because we already have it picked out.
Yes.
The old guard, the Michael Caines, the Sharon Stones, the Glenn Closes, they're on their way out. It's the late 90s. It's time for some new kids to step up. Some kids from the WB to step up. And they do so in an adoption of the 1840-something French novel Les Liaisons Dangerous.
Yeah,
my French is actually worse than my Michael Caine. All right. It's going to be Cruel Intentions, guys. Check it out, watch it, take some notes, and follow along with us next week. Until then, I'm Ben.
I'm Reese.
I'm Shannon.
Go be sexy.